Hello, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jan Clothier of Thinking Stamping, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in New Zealand. Today I thought I'd share with you this card that I made using the Gorgeously Made bundle, which is one of my favourite suites, favourite bundles from the 2023 to 2024 annual catalogue. It bundles all these lovely eclectic images. They bundle with this set of dies, and we're actually going to use all of the dies in today's card. I thought we'll start off with what you need to make it. Obviously you need the Gorgeously Made bundle, and if you live in New Zealand and you don't have it and you'd like to add that to your craft collection, then you can shop with me from anywhere in New Zealand, and there's a link to my online store in the video description below. Okay, so the Gorgeously Made bundle. Now for my card base I have used Lost Lagoon, and it is a standard card base for me, so it's 21 centimetres, scored at 10.5 and cut at 14.8. Now if you are an imperial person, you don't use metric measurements, then just use whatever your standard size card base is, because this is a standard size card base for me. And then you can just adjust the mats accordingly. So a base, Lost Lagoon, 21 centimetres and 14.8 that way. Now, I've also used two pieces of basic white that are 0.5 centimetre smaller than the card front. So these two pieces of paper started out life just being a plain 10 centimetre by 14.3 centimetre rectangle. But what I did with them was take these two edge dies and I just ran them through my machine. I put that one at the top and I put this one at the bottom. It doesn't really matter where you put it, you know, what angle you put it on, which way you go. All you're aiming for is that kind of faux torn edge effect. So I've done that on both of the pieces, one of which is for the front, and as you can see we're going to do quite a lot of decorating with that, and one is for the inside. Now on the same note, I cut out of soft seafoam two pieces the same size, so 10 centimetres that way, 14.3 that way. One of these pairs is for the inside, and we'll put those aside because we'll use them later, and one is for the front. Now you can see I've already done something to this one. And all I've done to that one is I took that stamp there and I stamped it in soft seafoam over, I just repeat stamped it over the bottom, so it made a pattern onto the paper, so that when we attach that one over the top, there's a bit of interest going on at the bottom of the page. So that's what those are for. Now to make all this stuff in the middle, there's only a couple of things extra that you need. You need some fluid 100 watercolour paper. And out of that you're going to take two of these other dies, the two foliage dies, and just die cut one of each, and I'll show you what we're going to do with those two later. And you need a little piece of basic white for the sentiment, and another little piece the same size out of soft seafoam, because what we're going to do is take that label shape, and after what I did was on my scrap of paper, my sample card I used thank you, but this one I'm thinking I'll make it a birthday card, so I'm going to have you're a great friend on the front, and then later on I'm going to either write a message or stamp happy birthday on the inside. So I just stamped in Lost Lagoon on white, die cut it with that little die there, and then you can see I've cut exactly the same size shaped die out of soft seafoam and layered them together so that they're ready for us later on. Okay, so that's what all the bits and bobs are. So as you can see, the two main bits of action in this card are the stamping and what we've done to these die cuts. Now I'm going to start with the die cuts because they'll take a little bit of time to dry. So you can take either a paper towel or a microfiber cloth or something that's going to protect your work surface. And you need some water painters, so doesn't really matter which one you use. When I am watercolouring, I always wet my surface first, because I think that the ink will move better on a wet surface. If you leave it dry, it's just going to pretty much act like paint. So you'll get, you know, if you put a blob of ink, that's where that blob of ink will stay. But if your paper is wet, and actually the wetter it is, the more movement you will get. That's what you want, that's what you're aiming for. Okay, so I'm going to wet that paper. I've got an acrylic block here, and I'm just going to add onto it a little touch of Bubble Bath re-inker. So you don't need much, because a little goes a long way when you're dealing with re-inkers. So I'm just going to start with a couple of little drops there, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be enough, but if not, I can always add it in. I'm going to squeeze, pick up some ink, and I'm just going to kind of like, I don't want it neat and tidy, I want it blobby. So I'm just squeezing water out so that the ink is not all the same thickness, and then I'm just sort of painting it on in a very loose way because I want it to look textured and uneven. Like if I wanted it to look all nicely pink, I could have just cut it out of pink paper. So that will be good. We'll just leave that there. Now I'm just going to empty that out. Or not empty that out, clean that out by just squeezing it. So if you just squeeze it until it runs clear, then you're good for the next colour. Now what I'm going to do with this one, perhaps I'll just turn that over so it's not on top of the pink ink. Okay, so all I'm doing here is I'm just wetting that, wet. Now this one I'm going to take a little bit of soft seafoam re-inker. And again, a couple of drops is all you need. You don't need to go over the top with it. And again, I'm going to squeeze some water in there so it gets a bit watery. And I'm going to take the same kind of dab-handed approach. I don't want this looking all neat and tidy. I want this looking a bit rough and messy. However, I do want a reasonable coverage of soft seafoam. So, yep. Might just have a tiny, tiny little dribble more, just the tiniest little bit more. Really don't need much. Okay, and I'm just going to spread that over. Because the other thing I'm going to do with this one is this one's going to get a 2-colour treatment. See, I've given it a bit of a once over lightly with the soft seafoam, and now I'm going to get my Lost Lagoon re-inker, and I'm going to really restrain myself to 1 drop because I just want a little hint of the darker colour in there. So I'm also going to squeeze water so that that ink is diluted, and I'm just going to do the slightest bit of blobbery on there, so it's going to end up a 2-coloured mottled affair. Okay, and as you can see, that's how much I've got left of that Lost Lagoon. So a little goes a very long way, especially if it's a strong colour like that. So I'll just wipe that up, pop my my water painter out of the way, and I'm just going to pop them to the side to dry while we start on what's happening with the stamping. Now, there's a couple of things happening here. So out of this set, I'm going to now, we're actually pretty much going to use every stamp as well, because we've used this one on the underskirt. We're going to use both of these, and we're going to use that text stamp. I've already used that sentiment. I used that one on the other one, so the only one languishing unused today is the hello. But you could equally have substituted that for any of the sentiments. So let us start with this stamp. This lovely blossom here. Now again, I'm going to go for the 2-tone treatment. So I'm going to start with, I'm just going to ink it all over with soft seafoam. And then I'm going to get my sponge daub, and I'm going to get the Lost Lagoon, and I'm just going to put some Lost Lagoon up the flower stems, just concentrating on the centre of it. And I'm going to close that up, give it a little breath in case it needs a bit of loosening, and then I'm going to work out roughly where I think the centre is, and I'm just going to stamp it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because I like to give the ink time to transfer. Okay, so we've got our lovely little two-coloured leafy thing going on there. Now I'm going to take that one, which is that spray there. Going to go this time for the bubble bath. Ink it up. And I'm just going to do the same thing but less. I'm going to get my dauber, and I'm just going to put some tiny touches just to bring in that second colour more than anything. Okay, same thing. Only this time we're going to go out that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Now, the next thing is a little more random. We're going to take the text, the distressed text stamp. Now, this is one stamp where I have put the backing on. You'll have noticed if you've watched me before, I don't generally put the sticker label on the back because, well, there's many reasons why I don't do it. But in this instance, it was very hard to constantly be working out which way was up and down, and I could see that there at that top corner there was the word 6 quite legible. So I put the backing on it so that I'd always be able to tell which way it was up. Now in this instance, I'm simply going to get in here and I'm just going to, just going to repeat stamp over this background just to fill in that soft seafoam colour into it, into the mix. Okay, I think that's probably enough. But if I don't think so later, I can always come back and change that. Okay, so I think it's time where we could now add that on there. Where is my glue gone? Here. And I think we will also need my old friend, the silicone mat, because these little bits here are quite tricky to glue. So I'm going to do, oh, it's a little bit more glue than I would have liked to have seen. That's what happens when you use a new glue. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue there. Oops. Just going to pick up some glue. If my glue was less new and I could trust it not to come out in big gushes, I would just have carefully gone along and put a tiny, tiny pinprick of glue on each of those. But since it's a new glue, I don't really trust it to come out in small enough doses for my liking. So I'm doing it that way. Okay. Here we go. Now you've got some wiggly room to get that straight. Okay, so it's all lined up across the top. It matches at the sides. They've pressed down. So now we can get our card base. You can see how that's going to go. Before I'm going to do this first. So I'm going to see if these are dry. Our little die cuts. I'm going to stick them on first because I feel like maybe there might be some overhang that needs trimming. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I thought that might be the case. It looks like I've trimmed that one a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to give that a wee haircut. I'm a little bit under the weather today, so that's why my voice is a bit croaky. And I'm also going to use it for any reason, for an excuse, should I still say something completely stupid today. And you can see our little spray of hanging foliage is starting to take nice shape. So now we can just glue, attach it to the front, make sure we've got a nice even border all the way around, press it firmly, and now we are on the home stretch. Okay, glue dots, where are you? Okay, so you can see that what I've done here is I've made myself a bow, and I've in fact already made the bow for this card. There's no great secret in how I made it. I simply cut 3 pieces of white twine from the Baker's Twine Essentials pack. I cut them 25 centimetres long, and then I simply tied the 3 of them together into a bow and trimmed the tail. If you would like your bow to be a little bit longer, or the tails to be a little bit longer, then maybe go for 30 centimetres. Oh, where's my pokey tool? Here it is. Okay, so now I'm just going to get myself some glue dots. Because that bow is 3 strands wide, it's got a bit of weight in it. So I'm not going to rely on a single glue dot. I'm going to put 3 glue dots. That's how profligate I'm feeling today. And then we can just pop them right there. I also think this would make quite a nice wedding or engagement card because it's, you know, it's quite pretty. You just have to change up the sentiment for that. Now, the weather is getting gloomier and gloomier, and while I've been sitting here, it's in fact started to rain. That's the kind of day it is here today. Right, sentiment next. So where am I going to pop it? Well, probably there. And I think we will have some dimensionals on that. So let's pop some on. 1, 2, 3. Flick off the backs. Now, when it comes to putting a sentiment on, you know, you do things that can maximise your chances of success. So one of them is to line up your card with the lines of the grid paper so that you've got a better idea of where straight is. Of course, nothing guarantees success. All that can happen is you can maximise your chances. So, okay, I'm just going to pop that there. Does that look straight? Because, of course, until you actually press it together, you've got a chance to move it. So, okay, give that a press. Now, embellishment. I don't know whether you can see. It's very, very subtle what I've done here. What I have added in on that one is I used some of these adhesive-backed sequins trio, which actually are part of the suite for the Gorgeously Made bundle. And so there's 3 colours. There's a pink, a sort of a pretty peacock kind of a colour, and this lovely kind of iridescent mother of pearl, which is what I used. I thought about using the pink, but I wondered if it was a bit much. And I definitely, maybe the green is a bit much. Oh no, I'm going to go rogue. I'm going to use the pretty peacock. But of course you could use rhinestones of any variety. I think the iridescent rhinestones would be beautiful with it. But I'm just kind of like sticking into the colours at the moment. So I'm just going to, in this instance, I'm going to go green. But of course, if you're making this card, you can use whatever embellishments you think look the nicest. Okay, so there is our Gorgeously Made floral bundle. I'll show you what I did on the inside, because as I said, we've already got over here in the instructions I gave you, you've got a green, a soft seafoam, and a die cut white piece for the inside. What I did here is I just added in some simple stamping in the corner just to give it a bit of a buzz, but you could do whatever you liked. You could repeat some of the 2-coloured stamping. You could just leave it plain like that if you had a big message to write. It's entirely up to you what you do. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed making that card with me, and I hope you'll give something similar a go. If you do, I'd love to see it. Don't forget, if you live in New Zealand and you've seen anything that I've used today that you'd like to add to your craft stash, please feel free to shop with me, and there's a link to my online store below. If you've liked what you've seen and you haven't subscribed, please do so you know, so you don't miss anything new that I do. I'm always happy to answer questions, and you can contact me through the details in the video description below, or through the places that are going to pop up in the end card in just a moment or two. But above all else, everyone, happy stamping.